Hey there, my name is Pravus and welcome back to more oxygen not included in the Super Duper Grouper base. Sorry I haven't played for a while. I know it's been a couple weeks. I had a lot of other really big projects that were taking up my time, and unfortunately I didn't have the hours to spare. So get off my back, Alpha, but we are back, so we got some projects we've got to work on today. The big thing that I really want to get working on is a Volcano tamer. We need some way of getting more refined materials. That's the big bottleneck right now. And a big part of that is because I have wasted so much time trying to cool down my metal refinery using the anti-entropy thermal nullifier, which is cool and all, but at the end of the day, simply is not going to cut it. We need to be able to refine a heck of a lot more material. One way we could at least pad that a little bit would be to have a fully functioning gold tamer where I could actually extract out already refined gold and use that elsewhere in the base. Yes, it's going to be like obscenely hot, and we'll have to find a good way to make use of that, but at the very least, we'll be producing it. So it won't create steel for me. I still need a metal refinery for something like that, but at least most of my casual jobs that require a little bit of refined material, we'd be able to make that work. The only problem is a gold tamer does take a little while to set up, and we're going to need a lot of materials. So one of my volcanoes down here is currently dormant. I'm going to try to get something set up over here and see if we can make that work. To that extent, I'm going to need a lot more ceramic materials. It makes for a pretty decent insulator. We also will need to make a lot of steel. Unfortunately, this causes a ridiculous amount of heat. So I've extended some of the piping a little bit down over here, not to only go through the thermal nullifier, but also to kind of run through the cold biome a little bit. And you can see, just by having some radiant pipes over here, we've heated up the cold biome in this particular area very rapidly. I'm hoping by placing down a couple of temp shift plates, we can kind of spread this around. I don't exactly have enough refined material to build this all out, and even then, it's all going to quickly melt this area. So we're going to make use of the cold biome a bit more effectively, just do a lot of the work for us. Temp shift plates might help a smidge. I've also tried to make the base just a little bit more efficient in a few different ways. We had a lot of issues where some of my dupes either had nothing to do because there weren't enough suits to go out where they needed to do anything, so there was some downtime going on, and also just in general, travel time outside the base has been truly abysmal. Something I'm trying to do to make it a little bit better is it schedule or is it under priorities? Yeah, it's under priorities. I've reworked the priorities a little bit so that people actually focus what they're good on, really specialize, not too many up arrows all across the board, right? Focus only on a handful of things, and if you've got nothing better to do, then you'll have a few other options. Also, something I forget exists is under options here, you can enable proximity settings, which encourages your dupes to prioritize the closest and most urgent applicable errand for them to perform, which hopefully means less running all the way across the map to do one little drop-off errand and then run all the way back home, and then decide to run all the way up here, right? They'll focus on things that are a little bit closer, which hopefully means a little bit less downtime. What did I just finish researching? Computing, I think? Okay, so that offers a few new options. We have the XOR gates, the memory toggle signal counter, duplicate checkpoints, so we can try to prevent people from passing. Also an arcade cabinet. That sounds like fun. I don't think I need much else over there, and I really don't think there's a lot more text that I really need to have in this game. I mean, except for maybe like an espresso machine. I feel like everyone could really stand to have some espresso at this point, am I right? Maybe artificial friends, so we can have some Roombas or something? I don't know. I've never actually built these guys before, but if it saves me a few jobs at home so people can work more effectively outside of the base, maybe that's worth it. I don't know. Whoa, and something is stuck in my oxygen machine. It got really hot in here. Hold the phone. Okay, we need to turn some of this stuff off. Gotta say, I love this disconnect tool. It just makes my life so much easier. All right, so we shut all that off for a second. What is going on? For some reason, my water is unable to go anywhere. Oh, it's because I was trying to start setting up a loop so I could dump out the hot water, and I think I accidentally got it stuck. Okay, we got this thing running now. Looks like we actually have a little bit of overload damage. Well, that's unfortunate. The power is starting to get a little bit too tough. Oh, dang it, all the heck. All right, fine. I guess we're just gonna have to build some conductive wire instead, using up materials I really don't have. Or, you know, we could also just ignore it for a little while. I don't know. So how are we looking as far as temperature now? Should be good, because what I've done is I created this liquid shutoff, so anytime the water's coming back into the system and it gets to a certain temperature, we start to evacuate it, and we're going to send it all the way back up over here to get dropped off in the polluted water tank. Way I see it, though, depending on what temperature we allow this to get to, I mean, let's say up to maybe 8 degrees Celsius, that's still some pretty chilly water that's going to get dropped over here. It just loses a lot of its potential value for carrying the heat out of here. At that point, if we start evacuating water that's going in here, then we can actually start using the cool slush geyser to start refilling this with much, much, much colder water. The reason it was all getting stuck up is because I'm getting lost on some of the logics as far as the liquid bridges over here. I'm pretty sure if I have this enter a bridge and end over here, and then the cool slush come in this way, then drop off here and then try to enter, I think this still takes priority, which is what I want. I want this water to get through the system first before we allow any more really cold water to fill the gaps. We'll see if that works, though. I don't know. It's gonna be a while. Oy vey. At some point, we're gonna have to create an actual heat sink in this entire base, which is to say, I've talked about this before, using steam turbines to literally delete heat from the base. It costs a lot of power, but it's pretty darn effective. But for now, one thing at a time, gold volcanoes. Oh, Foxy Trot, at least you're reliable. You're running down over here, bringing several hundred kilograms of ceramic and immediately building things. See, this is where the proximity jobs is actually very helpful. Otherwise, Foxy might have come down here, dropped it all off, and gone and done something else. But no, stuck around and thereby didn't waste hours running from point A to point B to then C and then D and then back to A. Love it. The astute among you may also notice I've set up some manual generators in a couple different places in the base. You're like, why would you need something like that? Are you so desperate for power? One, maybe yes, shut up. But two, if my dupes have really nothing better to do, then I've set these to be a very low priority task because it's one of the only ways to actually train up their athletic skill. You know, shy of them actually running around and doing things. So if they're going to be sitting around the base doing basically nothing useful anyway, I might as well get some power out of it and build up that athletic skill. Because anything that helps them move faster is just going to make my life a little bit more bearable. Okay, we finally have enough ceramic to fully enclose this area. Perfect. So now there's a couple more things I need to do. First off, I need to find a way to get some oil. Specifically, I want to get some oil because I need to be able to create some liquid locks and pump these areas out and then turn them into a proper vacuum so I can fill them with whatever I want. The reason we want to use oil instead of water is because water evaporates at a fairly low temperature, at least compared to oil. What is the exact boiling temperature here? Oil can go to almost 400 degrees Celsius before this stuff is going to evaporate, as opposed to water at about 100. So basically, it's the only real option, that or maybe petroleum, to use as a liquid lock that's not going to immediately evaporate once it's anywhere close to the temperature that this volcano is going to be putting out, at almost 3,000 degrees Celsius. Yep, too much oil, too much oil, too much oil, dang it! Not quite what I had in mind. Okay, well anyway, the idea here though is this actually should be all that I need technically to create a very compact liquid lock. So now, if I were to dismantle these tiles, people should be able to get in and do whatever they need to do. Man, I've barely been in this world for less than a year at this point, and I'm already causing oil spills. My ancestors would be proud. By the way, while we're waiting for more of that to go on, let's take a look over here. You can see we've actually emptied out about 2 full sets of the liquid here, and a lot is evacuating right now because it's all gotten too dang hot. So, what that means then is it may be time to finally reconnect this thing and let it start pumping back in. Nice cold water. Wow, cool slush geyser I've had for like 200 cycles and barely used. You finally get some action in. Dang it. All right, I've confirmed that I have done this wrong for the priority order of the pipes. So because this is flowing already, the green here from the water that wants to go back into the cycle thinks it has to wait its turn. Okay, I gotta go rearrange all this stuff now. Gosh, dang it. Okay, we've got total vacuum down here. Let's go ahead and disconnect all of this stuff, and we can finally start setting up. Now, this doesn't mean that we're completely done. What I'm really going to find myself held back on is a lack of steel. We've got 1,000 kilograms right now. That's not a lot. I need at least 1,200 just to get something like an aqua tuner set up, if that's something we want to do, which I kind of would like to. But in the meantime, I don't know, I'll take whatever I can get just to go ahead and get myself a steam turbine up and a running. This takes, of course, why not, 800 refined material, and you better believe I'd much rather use something like steel, though to be honest, that may not be necessary. I feel like to be safe, I need to build this thing out of steel to be absolutely sure that it's going to be okay. I hate doing that, but alright. I am going to set up a really long ventilation shaft over here, at least temporarily. My goal is going to be to simply start pumping a whole bunch of hydrogen in here. Why? For the same approximate reason you'd use hydrogen in something like with the anti-entropy thermal nullifier. We need a fairly thermally conductive gas to fill up part of this room. I also really wouldn't mind having at least a few temp shift plates, though I don't think these are strictly necessary. And yes, I'm going to count out the number of packets coming through here to make sure I don't waste any of this hydrogen. I need 36 packets of 1,000 grams of hydrogen. I guess I could just say 1 kilogram. That would probably be better. There we go. That should be about 36 kilograms of hydrogen heading down there. And if I messed up, it's an easy thing for me to correct. I want to fill up every one of these tiles with about 2 kilograms of hydrogen. And I'm really hoping I'm not wrong on this, and it turns out that the steam turbine displaces all of this. That would be embarrassing. And here we go. Okay, all looking good. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so once this is all delivered, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this gas vent, because I think that's everything I was looking for. And now we place down the steam turbine using up my precious steel. I know, it hurts me too. There we go. Dump that sucker down. Okay. So now there's a couple things that are going to have to happen here. We need to get some piping set up, and this is where I'm going to wish I had a lot more gold or something that I could use for some thermal conductivity. Lead might also work, but I'd really rather not use that up. Let's start with some gold. The idea is going to be to simply have a handful of radiant pipes, kind of like this. And then we need to have insulated pipes. I guess igneous rock should be okay. Dropping down over here, and a liquid vent that would output over here. Now, what's going to end up happening is, I'm going to dump a bunch of water into this system. Not an absolute ton, just like a bunch. I don't know exactly, I have to do the math and figure out exactly how many kilograms. I'll get back to you on that. But what's gonna end up happening is, when this gold volcano does erupt, extremely hot metal is going to get exhausted into this system. It's gonna interact with the water and instantly create huge clouds of steam. If there is steam in the room below a steam turbine, it automatically will get sucked up into the turbine and create a small amount of power. Then, this thing is going to output that water from the steam at 90 degrees Celsius. Guaranteed. Always. It doesn't matter if the steam came in at a whopping like 2,000 degrees Celsius, which is impossible, but let's suppose that happened. It would immediately delete all the excess temperature and go right back down to 90, and then send it through in the form of liquid. So what I'm doing with the radiant pipes and the hydrogen is, since I know that this extremely hot temperature is going to get reduced down to 90, I can use it to self-cool itself. Doesn't matter if the steam turbine is going to go up to, like, 800 degrees Celsius because of the steam below it. It's going to cool itself right back down using this water, and that heat is going to go into the water, then get dumped over here, already pre-warmed, to immediately turn back into steam and go around and around and around. As long as the volcano is active, it should be a self-contained cycle of steam, condensed, evaporated, condensed, and so on. Thank you, Alpha, for getting over here to work on this steam turbine. All right, so there it is, and it's got all of the piping we should need. I'm also setting up some pipes over here to pick up a lot of the hot water that I've been using for my oxygen, so that I'll be able to get this all a-rollin'. Although, you know something? I think I'm wrong. I think I don't actually need this to be made out of steel. I think I can make it out of lead. All right, you know what? Let me reclaim all my steel back. I know. We just wasted a bunch of time working on this. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It just takes so long to make steel. I'd rather try something else. We should be able to mine up some lead down over here, for example, and that should work pretty well for me. I'm gonna try something radical, because I'm so tired of waiting for refined material, and we're so close being able to get a large source of it. We're gonna set up another metal refinery. This time, it's just gonna have kind of a radiator going through a giant pool of water. It's not exactly the best way of transferring heat, especially since these are not radiant pipes, but I'm hoping it's gonna be enough just so we can quickly refine the material, go a few more passes on this, get some extra iron, some gold, something, I don't care. And then we can dismantle all this later. Why aren't you just doing this inside of the cold biome? Mainly because I'm hoping that just simply submerging this in a huge pool of water is gonna do a lot to actually disperse some of the heat, rather than set them up in a big ice biome with mostly just lots of cold gases around, which we already know suck at transferring heat compared to simply submerging something in liquid. So this is a bit of a gamble, but I'm hoping it works. I mean, worse coming to worse, what have I really lost here exactly? Not much, I don't think. Now, why am I trying to save all this steel? Because actually, this little thing I was just saying we were gonna do might no longer already be relevant. Maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. So there is something else we could do instead of letting this thing self-cool itself. We could instead go for, where is it, utilities? There we go, an aqua tuner, thermal aqua tuner, which cools all liquid piped in it and outputs heat in its immediate vicinity. Now that may sound kind of pointless, except outputting heat in an area where I'm trying to create superheated water actually is useful, and this thing is guaranteed to reduce the temperature of whatever liquid goes into it by about, it's either 10 or 20 degrees Celsius, I think it's 10. So it's a pretty significant step up, and what I could do, instead of having this steam water just kind of drip out, instead set up a cooling loop using polluted water to just go around and around and around and around, effectively supercooling this area, but outputting the heat over here so the steam just keeps rising up. It's not a power neutral system. If I do this, I'm gonna have to pump like an extra 1,000 watts or something into the system just to keep it running, which is the only reason I'm tempted not to do it for now, just to try out a simpler build for the first one, and then on the second one up over here, maybe we do decide we wanna go for the thermal aqua tuner setup. So I'm gonna leave it alone for now, but let's save the steel because steel is really, really, really hard to come by and it's taking me forever, so I'd rather just use up the lead. That said, we do need to use the steel for at least a few other things, because the only way this is going to work really well is if I can pick up the gold that's going to fall out of this volcano and transport it out of here. So what I'll want to do then is set up something like an auto sweeper. It's got to be in range of the center of the volcano. The gold will fall right here. We also need to have a conveyor loader, let's say over here or something. Okay. And then, yeah, auto sweeper gets rotated to be somewhere like maybe this. I'm kind of regretting the placement for my liquid vent all of a sudden. Maybe we want to dump that somewhere else. Anyway, what I was going to say is we need things like the conveyor loader to be made out of steel, and that takes 200. The reason it has to be made out of steel is because this room is going to get very, 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 very hot. So everything metal going inside of here needs to be made from steel. Okay, so we get this set up, auto sweeper, then we need to have rails. What I probably should do is make this out of, I don't want to use steel for every rail, that's way too much. I think I might be able to get away with using iron ore. What's the difference here as far as like the overheat temperatures, just so I'm aware? If this thing is made out of iron, the overheat melting point 1500, as opposed to for steel, which is 2426. Which, by the way, is actually surprisingly close to the gold temperature that's going to be coming out. But again, it doesn't matter that much because I'm anticipating the gold is instantly going to cool off in this room. So yeah, I think we can probably get away with using just iron ore. The real question is, how are we going to prevent this metal from leaving if it's too hot? I'm not sure we have the way to do that yet. We can get a conveyor shut off, and as long as I make this out of steel, I think this will be fine. And then we would use conveyor rails to simply get this thing hooked up like so. However, as far as like an automation standpoint, I'm pretty sure we don't have the technology I need. Let's take a look at research. It'll be down toward the very bottom. Or maybe not. Maybe it'll be with the solid management. Hang on, where are you? Yep, there it is. Okay, there's solid management. Now, we don't have this yet. And the reason we can't get this yet is because I don't have an orbital data collection lab, which requires we start getting into some rockets and stuff. Which would be cool and all, but, Yeah, this is a really big setup to make this thing more fine-tuned. Oh boy. Crud. How are we gonna pull this off? Let me think. How are we gonna do this? I suppose a temporary solution for me to manage this manually would be to use just a simple signal switch. And from there, we would be able to simply turn this off. I'd have to baby this manually, though, and that's not a good long-term solution. I would say this is fine for now, and then what we'll end up doing is putting in a sensor later, the next time this thing's dormant. I'm just worried this room is going to get ridiculously hot. Even with our exosuits, we can only handle so much, but it should be fine. Anyway, let's see how well this thing works over here. So this is going to create a lot of heat. Unsurprising, and it's going to emit a lot of very hot water, which is exiting at about 67 degrees Celsius. We pump it through this water here, and oh boy, this is not much, is it? No, it's not. Okay, yeah, you really need to have some sort of a thermally reactive pipe here. Just using, what was it, igneous? No, sedimentary rock is not gonna cut it. So after all of this, we drop like 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. Yeah, that's not much. We might be able to get away with this a little bit and create some really hot water, but this is not going to last me more than a couple of times, is what I'm finding. Nope. Yeah, see, it's just stacking up the heat at this point. Now we're up to 93 degrees Celsius. Next will probably be up to about 120 and so on and so forth. I mean, we can do this a little bit, but... yeah, no. No. Just for emergencies only. I am going to go ahead and take the risk and mine out the center at this volcano. This thing is now fully capable of acting. We need to finish building this up fast, and I really need to analyze this thing while it's still dormant. I swear to God, if this thing goes idle right now, I might just die. Now, as far as what we're going to do with the gold once it is done, I don't really have any great ideas, so I think a temporary solution is literally just to drop it into the pool of polluted water. As long as it cools down to something reasonable-ish, I mean, hot, but, like, not obscene, like, let's say 90 degrees Celsius or so, you can drop it into the polluted water. This stuff shouldn't evaporate, and it will eventually cool it down at least a little bit. Then we can just pick it up whenever needed. In the meantime, Red Velvet Kitty is doing a great job analyzing this thing on one big charge with the suits. Very well done. Okay, you're pretty hungry, but I mean, that's okay. We got 8 databanks out of that arrangement. Not bad, actually. We can use those to get the next round of research. Normally, you'd have to launch rockets into space in order to do that. But if we can gather enough of these from random things like analyzing volcanoes or geysers... we might be able to knock out 1 or 2 key researches before we have to do that. So we now know that we have a fair bit more time to work with on this gold volcano. It's going to be about 20 cycles before this thing is going to go active again. That gives me plenty of time to get this area cleaned out and prepared as much as possible. So is that it? Do we think we just close ourselves up at this point? I think the answer is yeah. All we gotta do now is dump a certain amount of water into the system, and I think that's gonna be it. So let's go ahead and get these things sealed once again with some ceramic tiles. Oh, sure, okay, thank you, Auto Sweeper. I wasn't really planning on that, but that works too. And then all there really is to do is wait for 19 more cycles. Eesh. We may not actually get to see this in action this video. If that's the case, I apologize, but you get the idea. Anyway, let's go ahead and get some water dumped into this thing, yeah? Of course, the real question is, how much water do we need? And this is where things get kind of tricky, because you have to be pretty precise about this. So, at some point, these volcanoes will overpressure. If they overpressure, then this whole design isn't going to work, right? We need the steam to be constantly getting new heat and then getting sucked up and then dumped back out in order for this to continue working. What I think I need is something like 140 kilograms per tile here. And I've got 7 by 3, so that's going to be 21 tiles times 140, that's what, 2,940 or so? So just under 3 tons of water is the most I want to put in here. Any more than that, and we create overpressure scenarios. Too little, and we're kind of getting the heat, well, actually it might be okay to be a little on the underside. Still, let's shoot for about 3 tons. So I'm watching this water come out, 10 kilograms, all right? So 3,000 divided by 10, of course, is 300. I want 300 of these packets to come out. That's a lot of counting to do. It should be just about the last of it. I was shooting for about 420-ish kilograms, and it looks like that's almost exactly what I'm going to get. Okay, so 420 kilograms times 7, that's 2,940 kilograms of water currently in the system. That's almost perfect. Okay. Guys, I think that's literally it for now. I don't think there's anything else that we can do over here. I think we just simply disconnect this whole system, and we wait for the volcano to erupt and dump a lot of really hot molten gold in here, and then see what happens. In the meantime, I've turned off the conveyor shutoff. So what's going to end up happening, of course, is that once the auto sweeper picks up gold, it's going to drop it off into the conveyor, and then it's going to start traveling, there's the shipping thing, along the rails in what will hopefully be somewhat evening out temperatures, somewhere in the hundreds of degrees. And then if that's, has a chance to cool down whenever the volcano goes idle, we'll just dump it into this pool until I can figure out a better use for it. So I think that's all I'm going to do for today. I think we're going to end this video. We have officially kind of sort of tamed a volcano. Next video, we get to find out if it actually freaking worked in 17 more cycles. What do we do beyond that? I don't know. Probably time to go ahead and start working on the next level of research. See if we can find some more databanks, any ruins, or anything else we can get, some extra data disks, and analyze those and start unlocking cool other technologies. Find other ways to make use of these steam vents, because this has finally reached a point where the water is so hot that we don't want to continue piping this to make oxygen anymore, or it's going to start heating up the base. In fact, on that level, the whole base is getting too hot. So maybe, just maybe, we should consider setting up a giant heat sink, using more steam turbines, which means more gosh dang steel. Ugh. We need to figure out a better short-term solution for this. It's just not cutting it. It hasn't been cutting it for a long time. We've got to figure out another way of getting some consistent steel. I think that's got to be our next goal. Refined gold's nice and all. Steel is life. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If so, I'd ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.